I gave blood today. Don't judge me.
Now that I'm keeping that.
Clement's Homebrew.
Coming at you with a beer review.
And today we're going to review the Elder Statesman by Breakside Brewery in Portland, Oregon here. So what is it, Dad?
This is the 2016 version. And I think as I was saying previously, it's a barrel-aged Imperial Red Ale, a blend of 2 barrel-aged beers. We love that part. Yeah. It's 80% rye barrel-aged for 4 months with a barley wine. That's right, a barley wine in rye barrels. And then 20% bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Blonde for 10 months. Oof. Then they blend the two and dry hop them with Centennial. So it's a big 10% ABV and we can't wait to try this one.
Well, I'm super stoked because this sounds delicious. It's right in our wheelhouse. How do we get this cracked open?
The interesting distinction is not an Imperial Red Ale. They call it an Imperial India Red Ale.
Yes.
So maybe you can help me with that one, but here we go. So the head's already faded a little bit on mine, yeah. And you can see it on his. But you know, color, I'm saying kind of like an amber red, maybe a little bit of brown hues on there.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you got to remember that it's an Imperial Blonde Ale that's mixed with a barley wine.
Right.
Which is why they call it a red.
Yeah, not a classically red ale.
Apparently it's super hoppy because they dry hopped it.
Yep. Let's get the nose. I'm going for it. You get almost like a red nose, but I get more like what they've made it with. I get some sweet barley wine-esque, and I get more the blonde ale. I don't get really a red ale out of this. But there's an interesting spiciness that comes off the Centennial. This earthiness, the spiciness,
that's
the
what I've been enjoying right
rye.
there. Is I'm just smelling like the Centennial dry hop.
I definitely get the kick of rye.
With that barley wine. You know what, like, the flavor, like, the aroma profile is kind of leaning towards, but not really, is the Hair of the Dog's Doggy Claws. Like, you kind of get that dry hop
maybe
profile. You can tell it's like a
But it's not as pronounced and it's not as hoppy. I mean, this has a lot more malt bill going to it. It's a moderate sweetness. But for me, I still say that kick of rye is really a big highlight on the nose.
It's in there too.
A little bit of whiskey, a little bit of earthiness, some oakiness to it. Do you get any like a pine or spruce, just like a juniper berry, like just a splash of like a juniper berry or spruce?
You get a little bit of that.
I get like a light elderberry, like a berry aroma on it.
I kind of get like the barrel scent to it. I kind of get the blonde. I kind of get the barley. I get the rye. Like, it's just...
It's time.
It's time to drink because I got all kinds of, like, hops in there and...
Yeah, you do. The Centennial's kicking in, too. All right, cheers. We're going to dive in.
Oh, I get yummy. Oh, that's what I get. It's so... Oh, God.
It makes me think of a wine barrel, though.
I get the rye in there.
Yeah, big time.
So, and you get a little bit of the barley wine, just like they said. So that's the crazy thing. It's barley wine
and a blonde.
The rye barrel-aged barley wine is 80%, so you get that. But then you get the blonde in there with the bourbon, but it's not in your face bourbon.
Yeah, so you just get a little bit of that blonde and just a light bourbon. But you get that rye whiskey big time on it.
And then you get smacked in the face with that Centennial hop.
It does. It just slaps you upside the head. And Centennial is such a unique hop, don't you think? I mean, Centennial is more of something you use for bittering. It's not a hop that you generally use for dry hopping, for God's sakes. So you get a bitter kick and like some spiciness to it.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And this is why my nose was so confused. And the crazy thing is exactly what you smell is exactly what you taste.
It really is.
It is there.
But with a slap in the face extra, because you didn't get that.
with some prowess. You know, I don't know how to. I like it. And this is not a beer for a lot of people. Like, you gotta love your Centennial. You gotta love your like hop. You know,
this is
hopping.
probably still on tap in some places. And if you can get it on tap, I'm going to tell you right now, go get it on tap, because you get more sweetness on the Untap. Not quite as much of the Centennial kick. And yet, this is still a frickin' fun beer. I'm just
And
loving
this
it.
is not a beer, like, I'm going to straight up say right now, this is not one you age. I just don't see it, like...
No, I mean, the sweetness is there, but I don't think there's enough sweetness to carry it for years like a normal barley.
And with as much rye in there, and the dry hopping, I think this is like a year max, and then it's, you know, like... done. You're gonna lose everything that they put into this.
The body is someplace between medium and full. It's a nice mouthfeel there, but it dries out on the palate.
I'm gonna say right now it's unlike any beer I've ever had.
It's very unique. There's a bit of tannins from the oak, and but it's not overwhelming. And do you get that woodiness and the light tannins and the woodiness on there?
Yeah, and it's accentuated by the dry hopping, I think.
Yeah.
Like it.
You know, this is where sometimes Christian and I go off into these places, you know. We love the Lord of the Rings, and this is where we see these little, you know, nymphs going around, what else? And, you know, they're hot blondes, and they're serving us beer, and I can imagine this being one of them.
Yeah, I could definitely, being in a deep forest with some dwarves, sharing a good time.
Well, he can do what he wants with the dwarves, but I'm with the hot blonde elves. So we're going to take a little time to sip on this, and we'll be back. Wow. We took a nice break. We've chatted a bit. Mrs. Clemens Homebrew came home, but I got to tell you, this is a hell of a good beer.
It's fantastic.
So now it's time to come up with a rating. So in terms of a style, it's an Imperial India Red Ale.
There you go.
And it's barrel aged. Kind of a tough category since there's not a lot of beers that fall in
Not
that
very
category.
much in there. I'll straight up start.
Okay.
Because I like the rye and I like everything. It is a 95. It is like in the uppers. You don't get very many red ales, as they call it, with that deep rye, that nice barrel, just have all that complexity that you like.
But in terms of red, the key word here is red. Whether you call it a red IPA or red Imperial or whatever, but red, I don't think it quite hits the red. And yet it's really good. I'm giving it a 90. A 90.
All right, that's fair. That's fair enough.
Now, overall, this is where he's leading.
Overall, for me, I'm going to just jump it up a notch, a 96. This is like one of those unique beers that you're never going to get again. Fantastic for what it is.
95.
Fantastic
Overall, 95.
beer.
I mean,
There
it's
you go.
it's unique, it's fun, it's pleasurable. I don't want to review everything, but between that earthiness and all
It's
those
10%.
qualities.
It gives you a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling.
Oh my gosh. We both agree this is a great beer.
Fantastic. Love it.
So here it is again. It's the Elder Statesman. This is the 2006 version from Breakside Brewery to Portland, Oregon.
Man.
What a great brewery. What a great beer. This is Kevin
And this is Christian.
from Clemens Homebrew saying, life is too short to drink cheap beer. And we'll see you
on the next beer review.
Indeed we will. Cheers.